Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. A manhunt is still underway for the shooter who assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk yesterday at an event at a college campus in Utah. Authorities today released 2 images of a person that they're looking for. Other clues include a palm print, a shoe impression, and a high-powered hunting rifle found in a wooded area along a path where the shooter apparently fled. There still is no suspect name and no reported motive for the shooting. Now, reaction to the murder of such a prominent political activist is intensifying polarization in some quarters while prompting others to call for a ratcheting down on inflammatory and divisive rhetoric. Joining us now is Chuck Coughlin. He's president and CEO of High Ground and you have political presence for a long time here in Arizona. What's going on out there, Chuck?
Well, we all know. I mean, it's the politics of contempt. That's the currency of our political narrative today. Both parties use it. And it breeds an ill will towards every American, and it's not a productive. It's a crisis. I mean, it's a mental health care crisis. It's a behavioral health care problem because that narrative makes us all want to dislike everybody else, and that nobody wants. That's destructive at the end.
A narrative of contempt, in other words, the dehumanization of the other side.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair way to put it. It's a lack of respect. We're all, you get the rules of the road are pretty simple, right? They're outlined in the book. Love your neighbor as yourself. Stand with him, be humble, and behave. And those are the rules. And that's not part of our political culture anymore. That's not what we do. We're always trying to vilify somebody else and use it for political advantage. And that's the narrative that we have today. It's not, as we're both Americans, we both live in a great country, we're both trying to make it better.
Is it accomplishing a political advantage? And for that, I turn to Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk's what he founded, a very strong, conservative, youth-oriented group, but was also pretty divisive and pretty loud in its opinions. It had to have succeeded because that is a very influential group.
He did. He was saw an opportunity, go back. He got Foster Friess, very wealthy Republican donor who was charmed by Charlie, gave him a lot of money because Charlie was preaching this narrative that was anti-woke. This was, 2010, 2011, 2012. And so he was going on to college campuses where kids were feeling ostracized by their colleagues and feeling other than. And if you didn't believe this, you're not in. And we all know that's wrong too. I mean, it's the wrong culture. And he took advantage of that and created an alternative, very much like Trump sort of took over the Republican Party. He took advantage of that opportunity and created a narrative which was wildly successful with bringing young people into the political process. And we do know this is a problem because we do know most young people are not part of the political process. They check out. They're not part of it. Well over 60% of the electorate is 50 and older. So this became a very important element, particularly in the president's last campaign, of driving turnout amongst younger voters.
I was going to say important to the point of, you could say that without Charlie Kirk's help, Donald Trump would still not be president.
You could say that. In some of these swing states, he was very critical, and the organization was very critical to the success of driving younger voters, particularly younger voters, to the Republican Party.
Okay, let's talk about Arizona, the impact of Turning Point USA in Arizona. What are you seeing?
Well, that's a little more complicated, right? Because once the 2020 cycle happened and the president lost and he created this narrative around fraud, Turning Point embraced that. Turning Point embraced that fraud narrative. They put a lot of pressure, the president, as we all recall, put a lot of pressure on people like Speaker Rusty Bowers, the county recorder Stephen Richer, to invalidate the election results. Of course, they didn't do that. And then Rusty gets a call from Turning Point saying, we're going to beat you and we're going to take you out. Well, that's what they did. Stephen got the same call. And so they took what, in my view, is a person who was heroically defending our rights to vote and the integrity of our election system, and they vilified them within a Republican primary and had them both lose.
So if that's working, if that is the plan, that's the narrative, and it's working, what's to keep? I mean, this is obviously a tragedy. I mean,
Yes.
someone lost their life here. Someone was murdered
Incredible.
here. This is a tragedy.
He's the father of 2 children.
Right. That's over here. But the idea of the organization moving on and having a success with a particular plan, what's to keep that organization from making any changes to that plan? Any
Well,
changes
I mean,
to the
you
narrative?
can say that Charlie was a very charismatic figure. You can say Charlie was very successful at raising money with people. You can say, who fills those shoes? Who does that? Who creates that unity of purpose over there? What they're seen as now, Donald Trump Jr. is very affiliated with Turning Point as being the streetwise warriors for the Republican cause. And so when Joni Ernst in Iowa says, I'm not going to support this person in the president's appointment, the Turning Point crew gets turned on. They're the ground forces of MAGA.
The response so far, and especially just in society in general, is it because it was on television, you can see a video, it's gruesome? Is that what's going on? We have had classrooms of school children slaughtered. It doesn't seem like that response was as strong as this response. Is that just the visual nature of what we're doing right now, what we're seeing right now?
You've been around this. I mean, that I think that's got to be part of it. That's the visceral nature. I won't watch it. I mean, my faith tells me not to put anything bad in. I would encourage anybody else that hasn't seen it, don't watch it. It's horrific. I watched it on a little tiny handheld screen. I go, I don't need to see that ever again. It's awful. It's the murder of a father on live TV. It's awful. And so you don't, but I think it's that, I mean, we've gone through all these political assassinations. I mean, the folks in burned down Josh Shapiro's house, the legislators in Minnesota. I mean, go back to Gabby Giffords and the mental health care crisis that surround her. You got the CEO of United Healthcare gunned down in the streets of New York City. This is with us now. It is unfortunately part of our culture, and in order to change, we're going to have to all look at ourselves and talk about, are we contributing to the betterment of this, or are we contributing to the bottom side of this? And what are we asking of ourselves? It'll only be that, and then some political figure is going to have to stand up and say enough. We have to stop this.
Well, and that was going to be my next question here, and I've asked this of other people as well. I keep hearing, this is not us. This is not who we are.
It's us.
I'm sorry, Chuck. This seems like it's us right now, and we need to change who we are.
It's us. I mean, we know this. 90% of the Congress gets elected in safe seats in Congress, meaning they win a primary, they're in. Primaries only have 15 to 20% of the electorate participating. There's only 5 swing states in the country. Everybody else is in because they're a Republican or a Democrat in which state you're in. So the country is solidly divided, and it comes down to these very narrow places where, our elections are, Texas is redistricting to have Republicans elected over Democrats. It's a trench warfare game right now. And so you have to look at the values of our founding fathers, of George Washington walking away from the presidency and saying, we got to let the experiment continue. Mm-hmm. Well, we've been doing that, and now we're going to be faced with, that was his greatness. There's been other great moments and great Americans in history. John McCain used to say, find causes greater than your own self-interest. That would be a good admonition for our political culture right now, and one that hopefully somebody lights upon.
Yeah, real quickly, before you go, does this have a lasting impact on politics in Arizona and around the country? And I'm talking lasting like the next election.
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. It certainly will. I'm not going to tell you which way that's going to go right now.
Interesting.
I mean, our firm's looking at turnout margins right now being overwhelmingly Republican. We thought the last presidential cycle would be a +3 Republican cycle. It was a +9. That gets accentuated in off cycles where Republicans get a bigger lead. It's certainly going to be a double-digit participation margin. This kind of thing can fuel Republican angst, and I would suspect that would be the case.
Chuck Coughlin, High Ground. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ted.